plan is at an all-time low. Additionally, drivers who activate this vehicle protection today will also receive free roadside assistance, free towing, and car rental options at no additional cost. Call us for your free quick quote today. 800-353-2973. That's 800-353-2973. What do you have to lose? Call 800-353-2973.
All right, it is 9:30, and it is time now for... did we ever come up? Sacred Fire Living? Is that
Sacred Fire Living?
Yeah. Is that?
awesome.
We haven't really come up with a name for it, but I know that's part of your brand, I guess. And from Nancy Harold's here from Sacred Fire Farms, and I saw some of your Facebook
programming.
Well, you put out some of your products or something out there.
Yeah. Well.
Go ahead and tell about it.
Yeah, we went ahead and opened up a little general store.
Mm-hmm.
It basically is a chance for people to get some of our herbs that we grow. We've had an increasing request for bulk herbs, and we try and grow in the most clean and conscientious practice we know, and the same with our wild crafting. So we did that, and then we're offering up some things like plant remedies that botanicals that we use for our remedies for sale there. They can start their own remedy garden. Health is kind of the theme around all. We have some plants that especially are really good at purifying the air, and we have those in little vintage planters. So fun stuff, but useful stuff.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had a grand opening last Saturday.
Oh, well, how did that go?
It went very well. We had a lot of competition. The weather was nice.
Oh, yeah.
There was a convention going on, I think, somewhere. So we only had 9 people show up.
Oh.
But everybody was intrigued and bought something, enthusiastic. And right now it's only going to be open during our other event times. And then we'll eventually, as it builds up, as we build up, we'll find somebody to staff it full time.
So I know, well, first off, you're a nurse.
Yes.
And you have a disclaimer that you like to give
Yes.
before.
He knows me well.
So let's get that out of the way.
Yeah, so I'm a nurse turned herbalist, and I've held the license for about 45 years. And everything I'm going to share with you is based on my opinion, my research, my filters, my experience. So it's not FDA approved, not intended to diagnose, treat, mitigate, or prevent any disease.
So the last 3 months, I guess, we were doing things on cancer,
Yes.
and now we're turning to
Shingles.
shingles.
Yeah.
So your car doesn't really look big enough to haul a lot of shingles.
Not that kind of shingles.
Not that kind of shingles.
No.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. So herpes zoster. I want to talk a little bit about what it is, how to prevent it. Prevention's always the best line of defense, if you can do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then some treatments that may be known or not known that can shorten the duration, and other things that shorten the duration. So I did a little grunt work before I came in, and I was looking at, because I remember early on in my nursing career, shingles is very painful, usually is typified by some blisters or breakout only on one side of the body. They burn, they can kind of itch at times, if it lasts long enough. I mean, this is so maddening that people will actually attempt suicide if they have to go on. In some unusual cases, it'll go on for several months to a year. And it just wrecks their whole life while it's flaring up. When I got out of nursing school, I looked at the stats, the time frame when we used to actually put people in the hospital. This is how severe it was considered at that time. You'd put people in the hospital and you give them narcotics for pain if they had shingles. Now they have things that can mitigate the nerve pain and some other things, and they treat it on an outpatient basis. But I recently, in the past 2 months, had 2 very close friends go through shingles.
Oh.
And, I'm trying to pitch them ideas and things to limit. The thing that made their case so protracted, and both of them were protracted for a few months, is they were in situations like one person had an ailing spouse, so she had to rally and try and get him care, and she didn't get to rest. And somebody else wanted to make sure he got to his daughter's wedding, so he couldn't take vacation. And he worked his regular job and on the road trucking and lifting and carrying and everything. And I think the common denominator, the takeaway from that is, if you are unfortunate enough to get shingles, that you have to rest to shorten its duration. Don't go out. I mean, I understand and I appreciate if you've got a farm, you got to power through some things. And I would be inclined to do the same thing, I must admit. But you really do have to rest to allow this to keep from spreading. And part of that is the tax it puts on our immune system if we don't rest.
So let me ask you a couple of things. You know, that one is I've always heard that it had something to do with measles or something like.
Chicken pox.
Is it chicken pox? That's
Chicken
it.
pox,
Okay.
yes. If
Yeah.
you get chicken pox, you're far more likely, you have to have had chicken pox at some point along the road to get
Okay.
an occurrence of
So
shingles.
is that true?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the same microorganism, and the microorganism is herpes zoster, zoster, opposed to herpes simplex, which are the blisters that you can get on your lips. But herpes zoster is the organism that causes the shingles. And this is kind of funny to me. So, not funny, but tragic in a way. I can remember times when, I was growing up, we used to have chickenpox parties. Somebody got infected.
Yes.
We'd get all our kids infected to get them over it.
That was still going on when I was a kid.
Yeah,
There was,
yeah. I was at one of those. I got chickenpox. We dealt with it. It wasn't acute. But now they are vaccinating children. It's one of the vaccines they strongly advise. They may even insist on it at this point. By the time you start school age, I've kind of lost track of that since I don't have little ones at home. But at the time my son was born, they wanted to vaccinate him for chickenpox. I'm going, but why? And they said, well, he could get shingles later on. And I'm thinking, not if he's got a healthy immune system. Come on.
So I guess that was one of the other things that I was going to ask you was, I've heard that, a lot of times it has to do with, if you've worked a lot, worn yourself down, your immune system is.
Yes.
So that's true as well.
Yes, very much a key player. And so going back to the vaccine, I think I caved and we gave him a vaccine. And he got a very mild case of chickenpox. But the vaccine response wasn't enough to keep him from getting full-blown chickenpox. That occurred when he was much older,
Really?
almost 10. And then he was more uncomfortable with it. When we had our chickenpox parties, we used to be in preschool or, if they had preschool, you were 5 or 6 usually, and it's very mild.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's probably when I had it. I don't remember.
Yeah. So he had a very mild case. I think he was under 2 when it happened. And then it flared up again because he didn't get enough immunity. And then now he's still subject to shingles. But he eats very healthy and he takes care of himself. So that definitely lessens his chances, in my opinion. I did some statistical research. And, in the 50s and 60s, shingles has been around forever. There was only about, and this was just Missouri alone, there was only about a 6% by population occurrence of people who would get shingles every year. Now, in this time frame, it's like 40%. Why?
So, that's one of, and we probably don't have time to talk about it today, but one of my questions
we're
is,
going to talk about it
well,
today.
No, I just mean, the amount of things, like autism and things like that have seems to have just, erupted. And then I read that, there's, in some countries, there's very little instance of it at all. So what are we doing over here that...
I have a theory that we are...
I thought you might.
Well, for one thing, our nutrition is pretty laissez-faire. We have a lot more fast food. We don't care too much what pesticides or herbicides are used around our foods. So I believe even if they're not intentionally sprayed, I think there can be a drift. One of the things a lot of people still don't know about that we've exercised on our farm is we're actually listed on the Drift Watch website, which I understand the MoDOT companies have to look at, and even for things that are considered spraying for retardants and not full, herbicides, they can't spray anywhere within a certain radius if you've got your property listed on this website. And I think that's just a good precaution. Is it 100%? Is it going to keep the, spraying they do up in the air down? No, but, you do what you can and you hope for the best and you use some common sense around it. We eat or try to eat most of what grows out of our garden. Hopefully I'll have a little bit of a garden this year. The weather's been so funky, that always, leaves a wild card. But I know enough people that, we can share in things. But I think the biggest thing is our immunity, Sam. I really do. Now, I just did a program. I thought, there's so much out there on immunity. I did a long-winded thing, I think, early on. And I thought about that after the fact. If you look at having to do 10, 12, 15 things to support your immunity, is anybody in real life going to do that?
No.
No. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to eat right. I'm going to do the things I know that are important. But it really is kind of 3 keys that are the takeaway.
I take my vitamin C gummy.
Okay.
So
That's good.
that's one.
Yeah.
I don't know what the other 9 are, but
Oh, as many times as I've mentioned elderberry, you can't figure that would be
elderberry,
one
of
them.
course.
Our old friend elderberry. Yeah.
I haven't seen any elderberry gummies. So
Actually,
they?
Walgreens used to carry
do they have them?
Yeah.
I'll have to look now.
And there's plenty of recipes online. You can make some of your own. But yeah, there's a lot of commercial pharmacies that carry the gummies. And then the other one I like is D3. Checking those D3 levels, because they're down in so much of our population. And we're finding more and more people who are actually resistant or don't have enough receptors to take in D3. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But 40% is a significant jump in about 50 years. I mean, it really is.
So that 40%, is that by population, or is that just by numbers? Or?
By population in Missouri. But it just kind of gives you a frame of reference for how prevalent it has become. And they're actually estimating 1 in 3 people will get shingles in their lifetime.
That's not good odds.
That's not great odds. No,
Yeah.
I would try to avoid that at all costs, because it is a pretty miserable thing to have. They usually treat it. The common treatment now is with something to decrease the nerve pain. Usually the most common drug I see given is gabapentin. The brand name is Neurontin. Gabapentin has some of its own side effects, and it increases your chance of falling. It has memory issues. So if you think about an older person maybe who has balance issues, I'm not the biggest fan of gabapentin, although some people do fine with it. Almost, I would say 80% that I know of report symptoms that they say really cause them problems. So the best thing, don't rely on the meds to cover you. Try to avoid getting it.
So maybe I'm jumping ahead here, but if it's coming on, is there something that you can do to mitigate the?
Yes.
Yes. What is that?
Okay.
Am I jumping ahead?
Yeah. Well, no, it's good. It's all good.
Okay.
Because I think then you really need to be conscious of what I call the 3 keys. I'm going to talk about prevention first. I like elderberry because even folks with autoimmune, all the studies they have done find that autoimmune folk can take elderberry. When your immune system is overactive, it seems counterintuitive to do anything that you think would make it more active. But elderberry is that immune modulator, so it brings things back down to normal. It brings people low up into a normal range, brings people too high to a more normal range. So a lot of people do better on elderberry than they do without it.
So what happens if your autoimmune is too high?
Well, usually it's flaring up then. We say you're getting that cytokine, you're on the verge of getting that cytokine response, which is inflammation, pain.
Okay.
All your symptoms are flaring up. So that's how people know their autoimmune's off the charts. But a lot of times that dims down or goes away with elderberry when they take it for a cold. So go figure. That's supported to me in practice as well as the studies I've read. The second key, of course, is D3, and there's actually an argument being made for the D3 level being checked every 3 to 6 months, because it can change. And D3 is the vitamin that we get from the sun that's so good for our immune system. It also helps autoimmune.
So how do you check that?
You can do a blood test at your doctor's house. You can even do a spit test from home. If you're one of those people like me who doesn't enjoy or relish going to the doctor. I would probably do a home test.
It doesn't have anything to do with how far you can spit, does it?
No, nothing like that.
All right.
You can do tests at home. So D3 would be the second one. The third piece is vitamin C, and this is where it gets a little dicey. A lot of people don't absorb vitamin C I always heard about vitamin C, and as a nurse, I want to be healthy and I want to do things that are easily preventive. But if I do too much vitamin C, I get these canker sores in my mouth.
yeah.
Yeah. So I just never tolerated normal vitamin C off the shelf. But I found vitamin C through foodstuffs, and our oranges just don't have it, I'm sorry to say. They have been, a lot of that vitamin C has been bred out of them through the years. But pine needle tea, which sounds really out there, is tasty, and it provides probably the best tolerated foodstuff vitamin C that you can have. And I try and do that probably once a week, at least to kind of support the immune system, make sure I get enough vitamin C.
What about bell peppers?
I don't have information on that
No.
compared to other things.
Because I've always heard that they had more vitamin C than oranges, and citrus
They could well
fruit
have.
and
They've
stuff.
probably not been bred out.
I was
Hybridized.
wondering about
Homogenized.
like a lot of people grow their own bell peppers, in season, but then out of season, who knows where they come from? But
Right. Yeah. And there's some debate about whether it's higher in green pepper before it turns red or the red pepper.
Oh, yeah.
But the one thing I want to talk about is, aside from keeping your immunity up, once you are on it or have fear of getting it, there's some things you can do. Lysine is actually an amino acid. You can get it over the counter, and it's supposed to be a very good antiviral for dimming down the vitamin C. There's also a holistic remedy that I have used with a fair amount of success, and that is witch hazel bark. You can buy that. I didn't realize you can buy it in capsule form and actually take it internally. I wouldn't recommend that you do it over as a preventative per se. Only maybe keep some on hand and only do it if you need it, because you can develop an immunity to botanicals just like you can pharmaceuticals, and I can't speak to that long term. But I have used witch hazel bark compresses for friends who have had shingles, and it shortens their duration remarkably. And I actually came across a study done by a clinical herbalist. Clinical herbalists, people who do these research studies, they just have a crazy, like, mad scientist brain. They just know so much. I don't think I'll ever be a clinical herbalist because I have a good storage center for facts, but not that many. And I mean, they break it down into the amino acids and everything and all the little sub-channels that you have to know when you're a clinical herbalist. But this one actually wrote about witch hazel bark unwinding the DNA of shingles and basically the whole herpes thing in general. So that was pretty impressive to me. And then kind of back up that story, I had a friend who had a lot of problems with fever blisters whenever she'd go to her grandparents' farm. Just the stress of being away and being in a different environment, because they'd go there for the summer, she and her sisters. And she says, Grandma would always tell us to go and put witch hazel on it, on the fever blisters on her lip. And she says, over time, what I noticed is that the incidence of fever blisters went down to the point, she says, by the time I did this 3 or 4 years in a row, I had none. And she says, I wonder if that could have been, impactful. I said, I don't know, why not? Now, commercially prepared witch hazel is done in isopropyl alcohol, and that's very burny. And I don't recommend that you apply that necessarily to shingles that are already firing and uncomfortable. But if you want to try and experiment, you can certainly, witch hazel bark is purchasable online. Believe it or not, Amazon carries everything. You can get the bark. You can make a poultice out of it with some warm water. And a friend of mine swears that I had given her the last of the bark I had for the season because her husband came up with shingles. He was the one attending the wedding. I said, we got to get him over this. And it did clear up the blisters so he could attend. He still had the pain afterwards. The pain, the residual pain, is what tends to be maddening for most people because it seems to come out of nowhere. Cool compresses will help it. Temperature changes. I know for some people get some relief or benefit from the lidocaine patches that you can get in the drugstore. Lidocaine is a numbing effect. A lot of people report that helps. Capsaicin, the red pepper, hot pepper, it seems antithetical. I just, get the pepper away from me when I'm hurting. But a lot of people report it's good for arthritis and that nerve pain also, in addition. So those are some of the things. There's a lot of different things that tout being good for shingles. I've not really tried them. I tend to be a purist at heart, so I'll go for the things that I think really that I know are tried and true. But I can't stress this enough. If you know someone who's suffering from shingles, don't mow through it. Get the rest you need. Take care of yourself, because that's going to lessen the likelihood this is something that's going to be protracted and carried out.
So, is there a way to? I mean, is there a way, I guess, to know that shingles is coming on before you get all of the symptoms? I guess.
If you have had shingles before, you will know when it's coming on again. And I want to speak a little bit to the shingles vaccine. There is a vaccine. I can't prove or dispute that. I'm not a big fan of vaccines. The problem though with most vaccines is, and folks don't know this, they sucker punch the immune system to get it to work. So it kind of catches you off guard. So any period that immune system is down, in my opinion, and that's why they don't give a vaccine when you're already immune compromised, or should not. Hopefully nobody does. Right. But that's people report they still get shingles, but they'll get a milder case. And I had the one friend whose husband was sick, and she had to drive him to the hospital. And they had this long protracted thing. I said, I'm not, but she was so miserable after because of the way the scenario unfolded. I said, I wouldn't advocate for many people getting the vaccine, but, if you feel you need to, just because of where you live remotely, no family around, you might want to consider this.
So this is just a little bit off topic, but I saw a story the other day where a guy was getting the COVID vaccine it was on average every 4 days. He'd had like 500 shots or something, to prove.
I'm sorry, I don't have a good poker face.
That's okay. but apparently he was trying to prove that the COVID vaccine doesn't cause any of these. Well, all it proved to me was that he's not susceptible to these things. Other people may be.
Well, yeah. We are all as individuals our fingerprints. That's my favorite saying. And so, why put something in your body? I mean, those vaccines.
And it's not really a vaccine, is it? From what I understand, it's some kind of a.
There are additional chemicals applied along with this mRNA technology, preservatives. And, it's interesting to me. I look for consistencies, I guess, to credit the value of some research. And the EPA says no amount of mercury should ever enter the body. None. Zero. The FDA says it's okay to use multi-dose vials to preserve them with thimerosal, but up to 25 micrograms is permissible in a dose to enter the human body. Well, there's a big disparity there. There's an issue there. Somebody is not talking to somebody else. Somebody has research that's inconsistent. You better go back, and look at that. I tend to go with the theory no amount of mercury is allowable. And that's one of the problems that I've always had with flu shots. Flu shots, primarily in multi-dose vials. Now, interestingly enough, usually when they administer a flu shot to somebody who is carrying a child who's pregnant, they give them a single dose that's not preserved with thimerosal. So that already is another inconsistency in my opinion. Why can't we do that for everybody? Well, the main reason is they're so expensive. And mercury will chelate out of the body when I say chelate, it'll be removed from the body. The body will eventually take it out, but it takes 3 years for one dose of thimerosal, the mercury derivative, to go out of the body. It actually takes 3 years for that to completely leave the body. What do you think is happening if you're taking a flu shot or any vaccine that's preserved from a multi-dose vial over and over and over again and yearly? Are you ever going to catch up? I mean, it doesn't.
I'm going to say no.
Yeah, no would be the right answer. Yeah. So we're looking at this increase in Alzheimer's, which we know is not well served by heavy metals, and we're putting a heavy metal in our body. So that's the other issue around, that I have with multi-dose vials. which I cannot speak to because I'm not a pharmacist. I'm not in the pharmacy anymore, and I just don't have anything I'm uncertain of. I won't say is fact or not, but my guess is the shingles vaccine is one of those multi-dose vials because it's too expensive to make it any other way.
So, is there? I don't know. I was going to say like the dosage of some of these things. Like I've I've heard people say that, and I can't remember what it was for, but like small amounts of arsenic or something are good for something. And of course, most people just think, well, arsenic's good for killing you, but
Yeah.
but
Well,
know.
okay, and you're probably looking at things like homeopathy for that.
yeah.
Yeah. There are practices, homeopathy being one of them, where they take something like arsenic and they'll dilute it down, so many times, like hundreds and thousands of times. Like they'll take one drop of a solution and they'll dilute that out several times. And so really by the time you're ingesting that, there's none of the original material there. It's more or less keeps the properties, and arsenic is arsenicum album is one I carry with me and use. It's in, I'm getting way off track here, but it's a good food poisoning remedy. And since I have a delicate stomach and kind of, I was very grateful for having it when I was embarking on a plane. I was 10 minutes to the gate, and it's like I had just finished dinner someplace, and it did not set well with me. And arsenicum album actually works on food poisoning. It also works on what I call the poisoning of the mind, where we have kind of this hyper response to things, just like a real emotional response, which is why I brought it for the plane, because I wasn't necessarily expecting to get food poisoning, but I don't like airports and flying in general and air travel because I, had a purse stolen in an airport, and it was a big hassle. It's just like, get me out of the airport. But, a friend I was traveling with, she says, do you have any of that arsenicum? I know you usually carry it with you traveling. It's like, Alice, I do. So pop that before you get on the plane, so you don't have to, make a mad dash to the lavatory. But it was very effective, So I think you got to look at, if these are things you're unfamiliar with, get I can't even say a practitioner who's very familiar, because then you have doctors, and I'm not sure. Yeah, I'll just zip it on that. I'm a
Call
bit,
you.
Yeah, they can call me. I'll give them my honest opinion. I
Yeah.
don't expect them to do anything, but I'll give them my thoughts. I'll be completely, and that's unfortunate because I'm hearing more and more people coming to me saying, my doctors just keep making me worse. And they don't listen to my symptoms. They don't listen to my heart. They just, look at their computer. They don't even look me in the eye. And, I'm tired of that. And I don't blame the doctors. I've seen medicine change, so I know what it's from. It's from our medical model where, I saw managed care, that is insurance, telling people how long they could stay in the hospital, not the doctors making that decision. But it's just evolved or mushroomed to this area where doctors really can't practice the way they were taught to practice, maybe inspired to practice. And with COVID, we really saw that. A lot of really well-trained and good doctors left.
All right, we got about 2 minutes. As always, it goes so fast. Yeah, but I just mean we go through it fast. But so wrap up.
Yeah.
Shingles here, I guess.
Shingles, get rest, take care of yourself, keep your immunity up, and if you can avoid it at all, it's a good thing to do. I wanted to talk a little bit because this is a real key piece. We offer a 5-week course, 1 day a week, for 5 weeks. It's going to be in our only Saturday session on April 6th. It starts. We still have 6 spots available. We only take 10 people.
Okay.
And it is basically to teach the herbal knowledge that my grandparents had, some people's great-grandparents or great-great had, and used for body systems when they had a problem. So the very first week, and we're allowing people to take just the first course to try it out. It is, fairly expensive, but we apply all, we offer all the materials. You will have a manual to take home with you. You learn about dosages. You learn how to properly harvest herbs. And you'll learn the bulk of that in just one class. But then we add on things. What you're going to study in the first class is, guess what? Immunity. Right? Because I think it's really important for avoiding cancer, for avoiding shingles, things like that.
And elderberries.
Yeah, elderberries, yeah. But then, we go into the cardiac system, the respiratory system, the digestive system. So you're going to get a whole body approach to using herbs if you take all 5 classes.
Right. How do they get a hold of you?
They can dial us 573-732-5053 or go to our website and actually enroll online. If you want to scramble and make sure you got your place there, you can sign up either for the first course or multiple courses. The 5, if you do all 5, you get a discount. So the first course is $125, and then the discount brings it for the 5 courses, which would be over $600, brings it down to $525.
All right, Nancy, thank you. I think you'll be back on the 9th of April?
Yes.
All right. What are we going to talk about then?
Oh, probably some, maybe eye health.
Elderberries.
Elderberries.
Yeah.
It probably comes in there.
AM 1560 KTUI Sullivan. It's 10 o'clock.
USA News, I'm Tim Berg. Senate Minority Leader from Kentucky, Mitch McConnell, is praising his colleagues for doing their part to avert a partial government